Podcast. I am your host, Chris Patrick. This will be our last Heat Check podcast of 2023. It is Sunday, December 17th, 2023. I wrote down November on my notes here for some reason. That's a little strange, but man, guys, I can't believe we're at the end of another year. 2024 is set to be a big one for us here at VSP, so we hope that you and yours have a great end of the year, a safe and happy holidays. Of course, I got to introduce the fellas back with me in the Valley Sports Plug studios. We have the man who leaked the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer a day early, Michael Benjamin.
Man, I'm still going through some legal recourse on that one, too. What's going on, Chris?
How could you? But we all appreciate it. That was a fun trailer to watch. We're all very excited, but that won't be till 2025. Mike, of course, joining us, we have Cam Newton's personal hat selector, VSP Tallman.
What's up, fellas? Did you just come up with that right now?
I had it written down.
You had it written down?
While,
oh,
yeah.
Man, what a coincidence.
Just happened to have brought up Cam Newton
personal
like 5
hat
minutes
selector.
ago.
Oh, man.
How do you do it, man? Do you base it off like what his wardrobe is going to, because you don't pick his whole wardrobe, you just pick his hat.
Just his hat, yeah.
So he picks the wardrobe and then you pick the hat, or do you pick the hat and then he picks the wardrobe?
Usually we start with the hat.
Yeah.
So you start at the top, you work your way down.
That's
right?
smart.
That's the general rule of thumb. But it pays pretty good, you know?
Not bad. How often
yeah.
do you have to select his hat? Is it every day? Or
It's a 9 to 5.
Events? Okay.
Yeah, it's 40 hours a week. It's a full-time gig.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Just make sure you don't call him a game manager, right?
You could call him a hat manager.
Hat manager.
Guys, I'm excited to be back here. And like I mentioned, our last Heat Check podcast recording here in person. We just got some, housekeeping items to close the year out with. The Suns season, of course, is right in smack dab in the middle of it. The big three finally made their debut, and then we're back to the status quo of it being either two of the three or one of the three. Diamondbacks are making some moves in the offseason. They have some signings, including some breaking news. Just a few hours before we recorded this, you've probably heard by now, Lourdes Gurriel is coming back to the Diamondbacks on a 3-year deal. And we got a pitcher. We got another starting pitcher added into the rotation. We're going to have to talk about that. I think Tallman and I, we're wanting to talk some golf today. See if we can get Mike to share his thoughts on some of that. And then just some of our overall thoughts and feelings, maybe some of our favorite memories of 2023 and what we have upcoming for you guys. Just real excited. But fellas, are you ready to get into it?
Let's do it, man. It's that time.
Let's
go. Finish off the year on a high note. Let's do it.
Absolutely. So right on the top of the docket is the Phoenix Suns and the Big Three debut. Mike, we were at that game against Brooklyn, a very emotional night. Not only the debut of the Big Three, but also the return of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, their first time playing at Footprint Center since the trade went down last season, but earlier this year. Crazy when you put that in perspective. Mike, what were just some of your feelings and emotions that night going to that game?
Well, obviously before everything kicked off, we knew it was going to be the first time that Cam and Mikal were back, so the juices were already flowing just because of that. What an awesome tribute it was, as well as they were doing the player announcements and the starting lineup for the Nets, and then they basically just put a complete pause when it came to them, played the video tribute. Man, everybody was hyped, giving them love, and those are the kind of guys that deserved it, right? And we got the cherry on top when we found out that KD was coming back from his ankle, and they were going to play Brad Beal on the back-to-back, so we got to see it, and there were some flashes of good and obviously some flashes of not so good. But overall, it was a very, very exciting game. It went down to the wire. And we'll give this one to our main guy, Ian. He can have this one. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to have some wrinkles to work out with getting those three back in the groove. Saw a lot of hesitation from Bradley Beal and even a little bit from Kevin Durant and Devin Booker trying to find out who's going to shoot the rock. Beal passed up on a lot of open looks where he had plenty of space to pull the trigger and just didn't. But of course, now he's out of the lineup again with an ankle injury. Mike, you were telling me it could be a couple of weeks. Hard to say on that one. So it was the neck first or the back, and now it's the ankle. Beal is that's going to be one we get into. But Tallman, what did you think about the Big Three finally getting together and having a bit of a bumpy start there?
Well, it was to be expected, right? I mean, they're not all three going to come in and, well, I guess there was a little part of me where I was like, all right, they're all three playing. We're just going to blow out every team, right? I definitely thought we should have won that game. It was a good game, but I mean, like you mentioned, there's going to be some rust. They gotta get in their groove. Build kind of whatever they're trying to build. But it's upsetting that it's only one game that we have with the big three, and now it's just the same stuff.
Right back to square one.
Right back to square
basically.
one, where it's just everything's just a question now. What is this team going to look like once it comes playoff time? We have no idea. It's frustrating, very frustrating, but incredible that it actually happened, that they all three played in a game. I was waiting for something to happen an hour before tip-off, but it was exciting to see, but still we're left with disappointment.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is very disappointing. He got injured in his third game back, I think pretty early in that game as well, and it was only his sixth game of the season. Mike, I got called a doomer, and I've brought this up a couple times, and I'll continue to bring it up. I was called a doomer for pointing out how these guys, the big three, are not always the most available. Not as much Devin Booker. He's the most available of the three. Kevin Durant's been really good this season, but Brad Beal, man, we made this move to get him in. Talk me off the ledge here, Mike. Why shouldn't I just fucking take the leap right now?
Chris, I don't know if I can do that, man. I mean, I'm in an emotional pretzel right now. I don't know which way to lean in the way that I feel about this. But the biggest thing is you have to look at the track record for Bradley Beal the past, let's go back 4 seasons, right? Hasn't played over 60 games. That was the most he ever played in 2021, but he's had a litany of injuries. I mean, if you play the game long enough, basketball players will know this. You'll have these knacks, these nagging injuries that always kind of flare up. But he's had some stuff that has put him down for a long time. I mean, you go back to 2019 where he missed 25 games with the shoulder injury. Then early 2021, kind of towards the end of that season, he had a big-time wrist injury, which ended up forcing him to have season-ending surgery. And then last year, it was everything, it seemed like. A hamstring, a foot, a knee. And those are cause for concerns when you start from that, especially for a guy who literally signed a 5-year, $250 million max in the summer and comes out in that first immediate year, can't stay healthy in any type of way.
Yeah.
It was the same thing here. Like, plays 2 preseason games, is down for the first 7 with his back, plays 3 games, out for 3 weeks. And now this thing that happened on Friday against the Knicks, it's a tough situation. It's a fluke type of injury, right? It's stuff that you can't really control. Dante DiVincenzo comes down in his landing area and he folds his ankle. So I think Shams Charania was sounding it's probably going to be another 3 weeks type of thing. It's going to be reevaluation in that time. But this is the issue that's going on with the Phoenix Suns right now. And it's not just injuries. It's literally the inability for these guys to figure out how to play together. Because the other factor that's coming into this, folks, is, Grayson Allen is missing this time over here. Now Eric Gordon's out. Keita Bates-Diop's missing some time. Guys are just missing too much to the point where practice time is not being utilized to really focus on the key things that you need to work on. And now they're having to use games to figure out how this thing is going to work. And it's showing consistently, falling flat in the fourth quarter, not understanding how to bring the ball up in half-court traps. It's like we're out there going willy-nilly, still trying to figure it out, and we're past a quarter. So that's why I'm still in the pretzel, because, yes, there's still positivity. There's still positive outlooks. Bradley Beal's injury, the x-ray was negative, so he should be back within those 3 weeks. But at that point, we're looking at almost halfway through the season, and we still haven't figured out how guys are supposed to play together yet. And that's a major cause for concern for me, Chris. I'm more so worried about the fact that these guys don't know the proper sets and proper ways to work together yet, more than the injuries. Because that's what we saw with KD at the end of last year, right?
You're right. And that's been the biggest story, and the biggest thing we've talked about is how can these guys get enough games together to build that camaraderie, build that chemistry, to be able to make a playoff push. I'll continue to say it. It's not so much about the regular season. It's getting to the postseason, being available, and having a record that at least gives you, I mean, I'd like a decent seeding at the very least, but as long as we can get in and these guys can build that chemistry together, that's what's most important, because at the end of the day, we just want to win a championship. We don't care what route we take to get there. But right now, the outlook seems so bleak when you have all these guys going out, not just the starters like you mentioned, but guys like Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon. It's detrimental to this team all around, and that's unavoidable. Like you said, it was a freak accident, the Bradley Beal, or, unavoidable thing. It wasn't like he was just fucking around. It reminds me kind of like Kevin Durant in warm-ups a little bit, where he just happened to step wrong and rolled his ankle. Like, that's not KD's fault. It's not the court attendance fault. It's just that shit. That's the shit that happens. And Mike, we've even said, as guys who play basketball, you more than me these days, but a rolled ankle is nothing to take lightly. Like, that is something that you can easily re-aggravate if you come back too soon from it. So I am fine with Beal taking the 3 weeks to get healthy, but it's so tough, so disappointing. But at the end of the day, we're not. I don't think we're even a third of the way season. Maybe coming up on right about that.
No, we're past a quarter. We're coming up on a third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is there's still plenty of time. If we end up going to the All-Star break and coming out of it and our big three are healthy for 85% of the rest of those games, we won't even remember or worry about what happened in November and December where Brad Beal was out. It'll be a thing of the past, and it won't matter. But if this continues to be a story and Bradley Beal is still out, game in and game out, and plays a couple games, then he's out, and then is out for 3 weeks, and that's just unacceptable. And you always have the concern and the worry of, even if Brad Beal gets healthy, what about Booker? What about Durant? Like, that can't be anything that's taken lightly. It's troubling, because Tallman, what do you do with Bradley Beal? Like, he has that no trade clause he brought with him from Washington. He signed through the 2025-2026 season with a player option for the 2026-27 season that gives him $57 million. So there's no way he's not taking that player option should he still be here. Like, what do? You have to keep Brad Beal.
Yeah, you don't do anything with them. I mean, in a sense, you're not moving him. No one's taking him, but you also maybe don't want to, because you got to give him a chance, right? He hasn't had a chance. He needs to get healthy. He needs to get right. And if you're just banking on him doing exactly that, and kind of getting back to the Bradley Beal that we expected when this trade went down, I don't know. It's tough. I mean, even in the small sample size that we have with him, you mentioned a very, very big point was what is his role going to be on this team. You also mentioned that he seems like he's scared to shoot the ball. He's just deferring to Booker and Durant, which, I mean, it makes sense. It's the first time he's on a team where he's not the number one guy. First time he's playing with true superstars, some of the best players in the league with Durant and Booker. So it makes sense that he's going to defer it, but he can't play 34 minutes and only shoot the ball 9 times. Come on, you just can't do that.
Yeah, no,
right? He needs. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I want you to keep going there, but like, just to piggyback off that and like double down, like in that first game back against Brooklyn, Booker I think took one shot in the first quarter, and he had like 7 or 8 assists. He didn't take a single
shot in the first
quarter.
Right,
there you go.
Yeah, so what's going on with that?
So Beal has to shoot, because Booker's gonna take the defense and draw the defense. So Beal has to be pulling the trigger.
Right, but Booker still asserted himself in other ways of the game, but that's not what we've seen from Bradley Beal just yet. It's a lot of him still trying to figure out where his place is. And when you can't play, you don't have a fucking clue how to do that. So,
exactly,
it's just where we are right now,
exactly.
Unfortunately.
Oh, was that?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. I thought you were still rolling.
We both cut you off.
No, all right. Well, oh man, my train of thought is slowly lost right here. Okay, so yeah, he needs to shoot the ball more. And I mean, you mentioned, I like that you added that Booker goes a whole quarter without making a single shot attempt. I mean, I still think he came back and scored 34 points in the game, right? But I mean, these three guys, your big three, I mean, they got to be the big three. They got to shoot the ball all the time. And at this point, it's, right when we thought, hey, we've been waiting all year for the starters to get back, right? And then now we're struggling where now we don't have the bench. So, I mean, and then you mentioned all the guys that have been out, Mike, but we also don't have Josh Okogie too. So it's just the injury bug has been a real issue with this team, and it's unfortunate because we don't get to see the full potential of this team. But I mean, Beal is obviously the big one where the guy's got to get back. You know, he's got to get right. We got to get these guys ready and get, you know, gelling together, because right now it's been hard. I mean, we're 13-12. I mean, I don't know. I had higher expectations for this team, and it has been disappointing to watch.
You're not alone.
And I gotta, side with you too, Tallman. It's too early to be too much on the fence with Bradley Beal. We hope that he can come back and stay healthy to see how he truly fits within this system and what can come out of it. But right now, early on for this Phoenix Suns team, it's not just injuries as well. It's just general lackadaisicalness, the inability to close out games. I mean, give up a 50 burger to Jalen Brunson where he goes 12 of 12 in the second half, perfect from the field. That's like you're not putting any kind of defensive pressure on him. And then once again, get killed in the fourth quarter, outscored 42-23. It's crazy. A lot of people are starting to talk about, I thought Frank Vogel was the defensive guru, the big man whisperer, and none of those things are coming into fruition right now. But that's also because nobody's playing where they're fucking supposed to play.
Yeah.
It's a litany of chaos right now. And I do like also what you said too, Tallman, where the big three have got to dominate games, but you also have to have your backup guys do the little things and contribute, because if they're going to focus their energy on three guys, we still have to have those knockdown shooters out outside. With now Chemezi Metu, it seems like a little bit more. Nasir Little is getting into the mix some more, and then you obviously still have Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon. But the last thing that I'll say is I think people need to be careful how they read into different comments that guys say, because I don't know, did you guys see KD's comments after the game when he was talking about Brunson and how it seems like the Knicks are really giving him the leash and forcing things through him and seeing him as the focal point? And people were like, whoa, is he talking about why is he not having the chess pieces kind of go through him first so he can make the moves and then we fold out after that? You know what happened to start this season? That's what it was. You know what happened with that? We were not very successful.
No.
This is Devin Booker's team. We understand that. I would absolutely 100% put my foot down and say that Kevin Durant understands that as well. It's just one of those situations where you go through a tough scenario, seeing your one guy where you were finally getting on the floor together, get hurt, and things start flooding into your head. I don't think he meant really anything about that. So it's still, at the end of the day, it's just way too early to go which one way or another. It's disappointing, to say the least, but like Tallman said, I mean, it's not even Christmas yet. Like, let's pump the brakes a little bit here, folks.
Absolutely. Mike, and like you were saying about the Cardinals last year, we got to be, not too high, not too low.
Ooh,
on the Phoenix Suns right now. I think they're doing just fine.
But, just remember, too, they're not spring chickens anymore.
Aside from Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's
got some miles on him now.
He's a springier chicken.
More
springier chicken. That's a new one.
He's a chicken in his prime. I don't know. I again, it's just gonna be interesting to see how this team can continue to grow with these injuries lingering and being in and out and being able to find that chemistry as they go on. The last thing I'll say is I just think it's interesting. Someone pointed out earlier this week that it's funny if you really think about it. The guys who have the most chemistry on this team right now are the three that came over from Portland: Drew Eubanks, Nasir Little, and Yusuf Nurkic. Like, those guys have more experience playing together than anybody else on this team right now. And I mean, luckily for us, at least two of those three are pretty regular in the rotation. I don't know how much Little and Nurkic really interact when it comes to the movement of the ball and everything, but they got to be at least be familiar with where they're at on the court. And Nurkic, like Mike and I talked about on Past the Outlet, he's been no, it wasn't Past the Outlet, it was the Suns recap. He's been consistently inconsistent, where he'll have a great night and then he'll have a not so great night. And it sucks because I have noticed when we were doing that, a lot of his games where he's done really well, we ended up losing ultimately. And I wouldn't say that's through any fault of his own, because we really lean heavily on our stars in Devin Booker and Kevin Durant specifically. And lastly, Mike, just to touch on what you just said there about Kevin Durant, like I totally agree with you. He understands this is Devin Booker's team without a doubt. He's made comments about him being our point guard and really wanting to take that second role rather than being the primary, controller, the ball handler, the scorer. He doesn't want to be the primary guy. He'd rather be the secondary guy at this stage in his career. And Devin Booker, like I said, is in the prime of his career. So why wouldn't you defer to him when he can be the guy that goes out there and puts up 30 to 50 any given night? You really don't know what you're going to get from Devin Booker. And aside from that, I really like what he's been doing through the point guard role and distributing the ball. He had, like we said, 7 assists, I think, in the first quarter of that game against Brooklyn, and finished in double digits if I remember correctly. And that's what you want to see when you have him being the primary ball handler. And it was interesting though in that game. I did notice Bradley Beal did bring up the ball a few times, so they were kind of alternating. But I'm fine with that as well. But is there anything else you guys want to say about the Suns before we move on?
We're not going to talk about Draymond Green.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Nurkic is after his comments in the.
There's no update on that, right? He's
out. He's suspended indefinitely.
Yeah, Nurkic said that brother needs help.
Yeah, he's growing on me, man. That was hilarious.
Nurkic, his English is a lot better than I thought it would be. I don't know why I thought it wouldn't be.
Give the man some
He's
credit,
probably been living
man.
here for a long. He has been living here.
For
I
sure.
mean, he's been in the league for a decade now. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that comment was funny. He took several shots at him. At Green. It was too good.
It's funny. I will go back just a little bit, Chris. The one thing that you did say is, Nurkic has had some big games. I think about the last 2. He's almost had 20 in each. What happened? We lost both of those games too. But you can't tell me that Draymond Green did not have intent when he pulls a full 180 and swings through. Like we're not dumbasses, and that's why the NBA kind of came down with. They're just trying to set a precedence now for getting this nonsense out. It seems like Adam Silver is. We saw it already just start with Jon Morant and now an indefinite suspension. I'd love to pull up the stats to see who else has ever really had something like that just from on-court, antics, I guess, if you wanted to say. But
yeah.
It's crazy. The Golden State Warriors are for another conversation for another day. I'm sure tune in to Pass the Outlet. We'll talk about their possible demise.
They're cooked, man.
The last thing for the Phoenix Suns, man, is just try and stay as healthy as you can going into the new year. We're going to have a big Christmas Day matchup against the Mavericks. That one's going to be fun no matter who's playing. Those are always good matchups. But just continue to, put their best foot forward and steady the ship. It sucks because this is what we had to do all last year too, when we had all the injuries and Mikal Bridges seemed to be the only starter, into January. So I guess we're going to have to roll through that again.
Inevitably, Mike, that seems to be the case. But enough about the Phoenix Suns. Let's keep it pushing here and get into the Arizona Diamondbacks. Of course, they're in their off season. Man, it's crazy how much we've been talking about the Diamondbacks since that incredible postseason and World Series run. But it's an exciting time, man, and I'm really, really happy we're able to, be able to talk about them and be excited to talk about them. And they've been making some moves this offseason. Of course, we talked about the signing or the trade for the third baseman. I kept calling him Eugenio Suarez, but I actually learned recently, guys, it's Eugenio Suarez.
Love it.
I should have known better.
How dare you mess up his name?
So I will not get that wrong going forward. Eugenio Suarez will be our third baseman. We also we signed a pitcher, Eduardo Rodriguez. He was in Detroit last year. We'll get into that. But the breaking news that broke today on the 17th of December is that the Arizona Diamondbacks will be re-signing outfielder Lourdes Gurriel Jr. to a 3-year, $42 million contract, the details of which have yet to be released. We don't know if any of that's being deferred or not.
39.76 million deferred in 2030.
And he gets $1 million each year and Chipotle twice a week.
Chipotle.
On
And
the team.
car service.
And the car service.
All that jazz.
Free hair dye.
Right, exactly. Like 1% of hairpiece merchandise sales. No, but guys, are you? I guess I'll ask Tallman first. Are you excited to have Gurriel back?
Yes. I mean, come on. He was a big part of the team. He had a lot of success. He had a good season, the best season of his career, and he did help this team get to where ultimately went last season, which was that run to the World Series. So he's also a fan favorite. He was an all-star. He's a good veteran presence in the dugout. I almost said locker room. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's great. It's great to have him back. There's a $14 million average annually. That's not too bad. That was about the numbers that they were putting on him when he was testing free agency. But I'm kind of curious what kind of went down with it, because he posted the whole goodbye, thank you Arizona thing, and
Yeah.
I don't know if he just didn't have the interest that he thought he would get from all the other teams, and ultimately he found himself coming back home to the Dbacks for 3 years, $42 million, where I think they were putting on I think it was a 3-year 45 was what everyone was saying he was going to get. But obviously we need him, right? You need that right-handed bat in the lineup. He's got some power, he's got some pop. I know we're gonna probably bash him about his defensive ability in the outfield.
No way.
No, right? Even though he
has a great arm.
According to ESPN, he had a great defensive season. But yeah, the arm is the only knock against the guy, and that's really it, man. I mean, when you're letting God, what's his name? I just totally spaced on it. The Phillies lead off. When you're letting Kyle Schwarber go from first to third on a ball to left field, and you can't throw him out at third base. It's just, he's got to improve. He's got to get that arm strength up. And then you could also say a big weakness for this D-backs team is all the outfielders' arms. Carroll doesn't have a great arm. Thomas doesn't have an outstanding arm either, but it's good to have him back. It's somebody that he fills a hole, and it's good to have somebody that was a big piece to your successful season last year back on this team. So I'm okay with it. I think it's great.
Yeah, and honestly, I to your point earlier there, I wonder if, like you said, he went out to try and see what type of other offers he could get, and the D-backs might have had that offer on the table to begin with, and he went out to see what he could get, and he was either very similar or not as good, and he looked and he was like, well, I really liked playing for this team. It's going to be basically the same group of guys next year, and we had just such a magical run. Like, even if it was maybe a few million less, maybe that could have influenced it. Maybe we'll hear about that, but. Mike, I'm curious, are you excited to have Gurriel back? Just to ask you the same question there.
You know what? I am excited. I remember when we were doing our Diamondbacks season review, when that first notice had basically came out about him seeming like he wasn't going to be back. I was like, you know what? That's a tough break, because we were just getting to really kind of love the guy. And He had a career high in games at 145, career high in homers at 24, and wins above replacement at 3.0. So he had a stellar year, and he was kind of that castaway in the Dalton Varsho trade. Mm-hmm. So to get such a great return, where Gabriel Moreno is your catcher of the future, a Golden Glove kind of guy every single season, and to have a contributor in the outfield, and like Tallman was saying, yeah, it's just the noodle arm. That's really it.
He can track balls.
He can track balls. He makes some great outfield plays. He's
not the slowest guy.
Relays aren't the best.
I mean, he used to play infield, and he was such a liability in infield. That's when he flexed the outfield. But he's got to get that arm strength up. It's bad.
Yeah. What do you do? How do you improve that? Bigger weights?
You hit the gym, Michael.
Yeah, I guess you just have to practice it more. And I don't know how he's gotten this far in his career and hasn't improved that area of his game.
Right. But I think a big lost art in sports in general is building a team camaraderie for years to come and taking the steps together instead of just trying to pick pieces here or there. The Diamondbacks have been doing that with absolute necessary needs, right? Our third baseman, we struggled all year long. Evan Longoria wasn't going to be the future piece for that, so it was time to start making the adjustments there. You go into the playoffs with a 3-man rotation. We're going to talk about Eduardo as well. So they're doing those kind of things. And to bring back Lourdes to stay within this lineup, you are going to have multiple weapons that you can kind of pick and choose where guys get to play. I mean, maybe he goes at the DH spot because Tommy Pham isn't there. He can play more so, 2 out of 3 games through a series. Jake McCarthy plays out in the field as well. You're going to have a lot of options now, it seems like. And from what Ken Kendrick and Mike Hazen have already kind of said out to us, is like, we're not done spending. Is it done now because of this signing? But, you know, we just don't know that yet. But yeah, man, bring the purple hair crazy man back. Let's go. Let's get it waving out there again.
Yeah, honestly, and the more I've thought about it today, there weren't really any other options out there, I think, within our budget and that we had our eye on to pair with this team. And no one better than a guy who already knows the culture of this locker room, knows his teammates, and has had a chance to build camaraderie with that. I mean, I know in baseball it's not exactly the same as basketball as far as team chemistry goes, but there is a factor to it, especially I'd imagine when it comes to just the overall demeanor in the locker room. The more familiar you are with guys, the more comfortable you are, and that's got to translate to the game at some capacity. Would I be off base in saying that, Tom?
No, you're absolutely right. And like Torrey said it during their postseason run, a connected team is a fucking dangerous one.
Dangerous.
So, and he's absolutely right. I mean, those guys, they're all in. You know, everyone's all in. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to be the best. And you know, it's great because it worked out for them. All these kids are breaking out, and we got to give everyone a front row seat to, you know, what special talent we do have on this baseball team, you know, and I bet you 5-6 years down the road, we're not going to be able to afford to keep all these guys. You know, that's how confident I am in some of this talent. So, but yeah, no, it's a big deal when everyone's connected. They're dangerous, and everyone's got each other's back, and they have the same goal. So it's great that culture, and it starts with Torey Lovello. I mean, he's a player's coach, man, a player's manager. So everyone loves to play for that guy, and you know he did a great job building that culture in that dugout. So it's good. It's good to have Gurriel back.
Yeah, and exactly along those lines, like when you have that in a team and an organization, it makes guys want to be here even more. And the happier players are, the better the product will be ultimately. I am interested though, like you guys mentioned, are they done spending? Like you said, Mike, are they gonna bring in another piece or two? They did sign Eduardo Rodriguez, like we mentioned. He was out of Detroit. Big key story from his signing was that last season around the trade deadline, he blocked a trade that would have sent him to the Dodgers. So he didn't want to go to the Dodgers, but he signs to another NL West team in the Diamondbacks. Mike, you have some information on Erod, right?
Oh, baby. Sign me up even more to hop on the Eduardo Rodriguez train. Let's get it chugging. Let's go.
Fuck the Dodgers.
He wanted to come here to attack them and freaking Shohei Ohtani. But yeah, I mean, 30-year-old lefty. He spent his first 6 years in Boston and the last 2 in Detroit, like Chris said. His best season was in 2019, where he was 19-6, threw over 200 innings. And then last year was 13-9 with a 3.3 ERA. Pretty good. We were looking at kind of what his stuff is because we're not as versed with him, but looks like he throws a fastball around 90 to 94 with a changeup and a slider for that change of pace. He's going to slide right in at that third rotation spot. I love that you get, you know, a change in pace with the lefty because then you push Brandon Pfaadt to the 4 and probably have Tommy Henry, another lefty, in the 5. I think there's still going to be some changing wheels in regards to that.
For sure.
But he's also a guy who's won. He won a World Series in 2018 with the Red Sox, so he knows what it takes to get it done, is a veteran within this league, and is that arm that we just needed. We needed to figure it out earlier rather than later and see, you know, if he's a guy that's going to fit in with this clubhouse. And I'm very excited to get him on the mound for the first time. Maybe we go to that game, you know, the first series of the year as well.
Yes,
but I know there were some rumblings about people worried about, well, is this another Madison Bumgarner situation where it is kind of a high profile pay stub at the end of the day, but for the influx of cash that this team had and for the opportunities that they were given in order to get an arm in this rotation again, I think they did it justice, and it's not going to be something that we're going to be regretting down the road.
I don't think so either. And like you mentioned, to pair him with Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly to have that third punch, and Brandon Pfaadt emerging as another guy who could be an up-and-comer in this rotation. It's just really now a question of that fifth spot. But Tallman, I do want to give you a chance to kind of share your thoughts on the signing of Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah, it's a good one. He wasn't really on my radar. I was hoping for a Tyler Glasnow trade, but ultimately we know where he ended up,
right? Yeah,
in LA. Because
if you look
at the numbers, I mean, what Erod's got, it was 4 years, 80 million, 20 million average, and then you have Glasnow going over the Dodgers, signing a new deal, 5 years, 130 million. So it's not too far off. Obviously, Glasnow is more expensive, but he's more of that bigger name. So I was hoping for that. But he's a great addition, absolutely. And I mean, he's a guy. He's not going to blow it past you. He's gonna get you to swing and miss. He's got that slider, 39% swing and miss rate on that pitch. So he's going to be a good fit into this rotation because we want the biggest names all the time, right? Sign the best pitchers, blah blah blah. But we got to remember we have two of the best pitchers already on this roster. So he complements that rotation very well. And you guys, you were mentioning how he blocked that trade to the Dodgers. His excuse was he just moved his family to Detroit. He wasn't going to go be gone away from his family all the time to play in LA. So that's his excuse. But I know deep down, he's like, I'm not fucking selling out. I'm not going to play for the Dodgers. Fuck that team. So he's already high on my list. He's going to be a fan favorite just for his block of the Dodgers trade, right? But no, this is great. This is good news. You asked the question about, is this team done spending? This team better not be done spending, right? Because the whole thing was, we're going to see maybe another starting pitcher. Maybe you get someone low on that free agent market that doesn't have a lot of interest, and you get someone on a 1 year, 2 year, low dollar deal to kind of come in and battle with Nelson for the fifth spot. But the whole idea also was you're gonna see at least 2 bats added. That was before Gurriel. So Gurriel's one of those. So now we're hoping maybe there's one more guy out there that they're gonna sign. Because the question is who's gonna be your DH, right? It was always Tommy Pham down the stretch late there last season, but it would be great if we could see, you mentioned McCarthy, right? I'd like to see Jake McCarthy come back. I mean, the speed, if you had Thomas, Carroll, McCarthy in the outfield, that speed would just be unmatched. No one could match that speed in that outfield, right? So if we could find a way where Gurriel's your everyday DH, I would buy into that, right? So we're going to see probably one other guy come in. But, I mean, another thing with Erod, when he was talking about when they did the whole press conference where they announced him signing with the Diamondbacks, he was mentioning how part of his interest in signing with this team was what they did last year. He said, I came here because I want to win a World Series. I want to be a part of this group, and I can see what they're building, what they're working towards, and what they did last year. I want to be a part of it. And that's great where you have some of these higher end, we'll say he's on the higher end of free agents, right? And, he's an accomplished pitcher. He's good. So it's awesome to kind of sit here. It's kind of like the Suns, right? Why did KD want to come here? Well, he wanted to come here to play with all the other talented players, and he wants to win. He wants to win a championship. So it's incredible that we can sit there and have guys like Erod say he wants to be here because of what this team's doing and what's going on in Phoenix, Arizona. So it's a great signing, absolutely. But this team's not done. One last comment. I'm sorry. The front office said this is going to be the highest payroll in Dbacks history.
Really?
Yes. He said that. I think it was Hazen said that. So good. It better be the highest payroll in team history.
Man. Yeah, I mean, they were 20th out of 30 teams going into the playoffs last year at $127 million. So they're spending early. Hopefully they continue to spend often. I love it, baby. Let's go.
I really would love to see them add one more piece. I think there's still some names floating out there, some guys I've heard in the rumor mill that we could be interested in. But it's funny because it seems like all rumors lead to Los Angeles right now. It's like everybody is going to be signing with the Dodgers, and I don't want to rehash the insane Ohtani contract. Just if you've been living under a rock, he did sign that massive 10-year, $700 million deal with the Dodgers to have $680 million of that deferred until the end of his contract. So he's only going to be making $2 million a year. giving them plenty of room to make those deals, like Tallman mentioned, trading for Tyler Glass now and signing some other players as well. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Baseball, we got still, not that long, but still quite a ways away. We got, I think, spring training and the pitchers and catchers report the end of February, middle to end of February. Then we'll have spring training in March, and then we'll keep it rolling. But guys, there's plenty more to talk about, and we're finishing out the year. This is our last recording of the Heat Check podcast. It's been a lot of fun to do these in-person recordings, but we want to ramp it up just a little bit. So next year, look forward to some changes and how we present this to you. So make sure you're keeping track of everything Valley Sports Plug is doing by following us at AZ_VSP on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. If you're on Threads, and then of course the big ones, Facebook and YouTube is where you can find the majority of our content. YouTube, we love doing live streams for you. We put these podcast recordings out there for you, and that's really where the bulk of our content is. And let us know in those comments what you think we got right, what you think we got wrong, what we could do better, and how we can present this Valley Sports information to you better. But guys, enough of these boring plugs. Let's keep it rolling. Tallman, we don't get to talk enough golf on this podcast, man.
No, we don't. I mean, it can be boring. So,
I mean,
and
it
how
depends.
we talk about Arizona sports? How do you?
Well, okay, so then
we're tying in people that went to ASU though when we talk about golf.
There you go. Exactly. You set me up perfectly there.
Yeah.
A guy who went to ASU from Spain, Jon Rahm, recently made waves in the golf world by signing with LIV Golf. The details of that deal seem to be a little bit interesting, if maybe not fully verified. But you were saying something about like $350 million, 10 people on his staff, and a private jet or something like that.
Yeah, there's some reports that it's $300 million with potential to get all the way up to $600 million. I saw another one say $450 million. Reportedly, he gets one of the private Saudi, whatever they call themselves over there. But he gets one of the jets to use for him and his family. He gets up to a 10-person staff, from his own personal secretary to chefs and whatever in between. So it's quite the deal. And he's always been a guy, he says he doesn't play golf for the money. So, but everybody has their price, right? Everybody has their price. So Rahm's coming out. I mean, and you're probably seeing a lot of people real upset about it. Saying he's sold out, even though he's sat there, and it could be a little hypocritical when he's saying he doesn't play for the money. He wants to be in the biggest tournaments, and he wants to go down as one of the best, right? It's all about legacy for him, and still his love for the game. So, but again, going back to everybody has their price, and his whole point is, he's got to think about his family. And then when someone's over here saying, "Hey, even if the deal's only $300 million, he gets half of it before he even plays an event." So here you go. He's with them for I think 4 or 5 years was the contract, but he gets $150 million up front before he even plays in a single event for LIV Golf. So he's thinking about his family and his kids, and I mean that's generational wealth, right? That's something that he came out and he said, I couldn't do this, right? I'd be doing my family a disservice if I didn't, accept and make the jump to LIV and take this deal. It's too good, right? You can't pass it up. But another thing with his whole point was, he won the Masters, right? Just this past Masters this year. So he gets all those majors exemptions. And if you remember, all the majors are not part of their normal PGA Tour schedule. So all the LIV guys can play in all the major tournaments, and he's exempt. I think he can play in all those majors for the next 10 years. So he's going to be over playing in all the LIV events, getting paid major money, and he can still play all the major tournaments where he wants to still be, build towards the legacy. And you can't hate the guy for it. He's got the third biggest sporting contract in history. And for a moment there, when it all happened, he had the second biggest contract until, some guy from Japan had to get $700 million for 10 years. So you can't hate him for it. But, man, did that just make a huge, huge splash in all of golf land. It's crazy.
It is. It honestly is pretty crazy because he's not alone either. Like, people can criticize Jon Rahm, but he's joining Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bubba Watson, Ian Poulter, Phil Mickelson, another ASU alum, and that's just to name a couple. There's plenty of other former PGA Tour guys that have signed with LIV Golf.
Bryson DeChambeau. Yeah,
that's another guy I should have written on the list. That's another huge name in golf. And if anyone doesn't know and is listening, LIV Golf is like the tour that popped up. It's Saudi backed, Saudi Arabia, all their money out there started this golf tour to rival the PGA. And Tallman, I think you were mentioning it there, but they're merging, right? And in the coming years, they're going to be merging into one tour, or are they going to run parallel to each other?
So you have Greg Norman over here, the Shark. He's the I think the president or commissioner or something for LIV. I forget what his actual title is. So he's sitting claiming that LIV will always be its own. They will not come together. He said LIV is going to continue to be its own separate thing, right? So I think what it is, it's all, and I want to say there's still the negotiations and discussions happening, and I think before the end of the year we're going to hear exactly how this is all going to play out. But it's about who's funding what. So the PGA is trying to find money to be able to compete with LIV. So PGA has been talking to a couple North America franchise or team owners of some of the major sports. Like I should have pulled up the list of the guys that are talking. I think I'm not even going to try to guess, but some of the rich dudes that own, the basketball teams, hockey teams, and all that. So they're trying to get funding on their own from those guys to be able to have bigger purses, pay these players more, to prevent people from jumping ship over to LIV. So but I think there's more details still coming, but it's going to be, the whole deal was the private investment fund. That's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. For the Saudi Arabia. Yeah. So they were gonna fund a lot of this, but the PGA was gonna still have control of how everything or how it's all planned out. They would still operate under the PGA name, and they'd still be able to operate however they wanted. But you'd have the Saudis back here, basically being the silent partner, owning a lot of it, and basically funding all these larger purses and elevated events and all that.
Well, and within that though, like the LIV Golf Tour guys would be able to play in PGA events and vice versa, right? Is that part of it?
I believe that's what it was, yeah.
And that's mutually beneficial.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
DP Tour as well, which is the European Tour. I think that was all grouped in as well. So basically, it was going to be all the professional golf would be operating under not the same name, but the same type of umbrella,
like competition.
Exactly.
Basically. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, and it does kind of suck that it's so fragmented right now, because the PGA was the premier name. It's like it was literally like the NBA or the NFL of golf. It's like that's the best in the world, and now to have it kind of fragmented off I can see the argument for it being bad for the game. But Michael Benjamin, big golf guy, I just want to bring you in here real quick. You were talking about this, I think, on a recent stream about how these billionaires treat these sports teams and organizations and franchises like trading cards, I think is what you said. Was that not you?
No, that wasn't me, but...
Okay, maybe that was actually, I think that might have been the other, Tallman too. I think Matt might have been making that point. But
Matt, the OG.
Someone, I don't remember who it was, so credit to whoever said it, but the billionaires treating these sports teams, and now I guess golfers, like trading cards and in how they invest in them. What do you think? I guess just if you want, you can speak specifically about the golf here, but just more broadly for sports, like, are you okay with that being the case and having all this money thrown around?
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, the investment is supposed to go into the players, because that's what people are watching, right? I'm not as nice as the courses are, or the people that back it should be getting paid as well, right? It sounds like there's enough funds to go around, but you got to pay your people who are doing the tasks and performing to bring in the eyeballs. So I don't know, fellas. It sounds like Jon Rahm's deal might be the best sporting contract in like history. I don't even care about numbers. You just have to factor in all the other things, the money up front, and the ability to go and play in the Masters and the big time PGA events still. And like you said, it coming down the line, guys will be able to swap back and forth. But I think it's okay to have them merge together as well. And this is just strictly from sitting back as an observer, right? Why wouldn't you want to have more events that are of high profile where you have the best of the best playing in? Because that's how you grow the game, right? If you have more leagues and have more people's eyes on different aspects, then when that big tournament comes around, you're going to have eyeballs like you've never seen before.
True.
So then that's going to bring in even more money, and more money gets to get passed around. But I know there's been a lot of controversy when it comes to LIV and that kind of stuff. I'm not well-versed enough to really speak on that. But at the end of the day, I mean, kudos to Jon Rahm, man. Like I said, that might be the tippity top, man.
It is impressive.
Hey, yeah, I mean, get your bag, Jon Rahm, and I wanted to circle back to that as well, so I'm glad you ended on that. Tallman, you mentioned, like, he's got to do what's best for his family, which I totally agree with. I would have done the same thing if I was Jon Rahm. Not everyone can be fucking Mike Ross turning down Charles Forsman. It just doesn't always happen like that, right, Tallman?
Was that a fucking Suits reference?
It might have been.
Oh, man.
No, so Jon Rahm, but
funny.
He's leaving the PGA at really like the height of his success in that tour. He, like you mentioned, him winning the Masters last year. He was number 3 ranked in the PGA Tour rankings, and so it really is a big blow to the PGA. And it's funny because I don't know, like, do you know, Tallman, how their contracts are structured in the PGA? Are their top players aren't getting this guaranteed money like the LIV Golf guys are, right?
No, I don't believe they are. So it's crazy when, you know, you have all these golf. Why do you think so many of them went over in the first place? You had guys that aren't big names that they're saying, hey, I can go win one LIV tournament because the purses are so much bigger.
Yeah.
So the guy can win one LIV tournament and win $6 million. And he said, I've been playing in the PGA for, granted, maybe I've never won a tournament, but I've been playing for 6-7 years. And that's more that I've ever made in my entire career playing on the PGA, because I'm making $200,000 here and that. So it's a no-brainer for him. But I don't think they're getting that guaranteed money. Where, I mean, you're gonna throw me over a check for $150 million, Jon Rahm, before I even go swing a golf club under a LIV.
It's a no-brainer.
LIV banner. Yeah, exactly. Granted, there's still a lot of details to come out. It's how they're gonna exist together. Is LIV actually gonna stay a thing? Because, of course, Greg Norman's going to say, yeah, it's going to stay and remain its own thing. Because if they end up merging and LIV goes away, Greg Norman doesn't have a job anymore. He's burned every bridge there possibly could be. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. There should be some more information coming out before the end of the year. But ultimately, it's, you know, Jon Rahm got a hell of a deal.
He really did. And props to him, man. Like, it will be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Last thing I want to say on the LIV and this whole thing is, Tallman, I got to ask you, have you watched any LIV Golf Tour events? I haven't, so that's why I'm asking.
No, I haven't.
Like, what's the audience like is what I'm wondering. It's
so,
like I see a lot of when I do watch golf, it is PGA events still.
Yeah, so it's, you know, PGA is more sophisticated, right? There's one, I think it was actually Brooks Koepka's brother, Chase. There's one video that went viral where he hit a hole-in-one on a par 3, and it was kind of like the atmosphere of the par 3. What they're trying to replicate in all these LIV events, what it appears, is kind of like what they do at the Phoenix Open, the Waste Management Open.
It's like a party.
So
tour.
when he hit that the hole-in-one on the par 3, like you pull up the video, I mean, everyone's throwing their drink onto the green, on the hole, like going crazy. But it's a different style, because when they're playing golf, they're blasting music. You know, it's not like a, hey, everybody be quiet. It's more for the fans to have fun. It's a different.
So trying to make it more of like a modern.
Yeah, exactly. And it also has the team structure. You know, all the big guys have their own team. That was also part of Jon Rahm's deal. Is he's going to get his own team, and he's going to get shares and ownership of the team.
What do you mean by team? Like
it's team golf. Yeah,
that's the whole structure of LIV is.
Yeah. So
okay.
Phil's got his own team. DeChambeau's got his own team. Koepka's got his own team. I think Garcia's got his own team. So they're on their own team, and they have 3 or 4 golfers with them. So when you go play an event, it's all point based, and at the end of the year, the team, blah blah blah. You know. So it's
okay.
Yeah.
So they're all golfing individually in the tournaments, but then their score gets tallied as a team.
Yes. So it's team golf. It's not my favorite. I mean, it's
That's
golf
like
is-
Ryder Cup, but year round, right?
Yes, kind of like that. Yeah, but it's a little different. It's a different structure. They only play 54 holes instead of the normal 72.
So it's at
there's
3
only
days?
3 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's shorter. So it's like all these guys are getting paid more money to go play less golf. Like
Incredible.
I mean, it doesn't
No
make any
brainer. Like I
sense.
said,
Yeah.
no brainer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but I haven't watched any of them. There was a live event actually in Tucson, and I was going to go with my dad, but
That'd have been cool.
it was, I think the tickets were like $40, but
Huh.
yeah, we ended up not going.
Maybe next time. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe next time they're in Arizona, even if it is in dirty ass fucking Tucson, we'll make the trek down
They
there.
have some really nice golf courses down there, man.
Oh yeah, there's some nice parts.
That's where Phil plays a lot down there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
that.
Phil Mickelson, another ASU guy, right?
Well, it's funny. I guess while we're on the topic of golf, and I do have one more golf topic to discuss with you, but it was funny because I was seeing on the social medias this week, there's videos of people that are golfing in colder parts of the country, and it's showing them like trying to clear the snow out of their line where they're putting with their putter. And I watched this guy, like, he cleared, like, this, it was, like, a pretty mean arch. Like, he thought his putt was going to curve, and then he hits it, and it just goes straight into the snow. But I was just laughing, because I was like, maybe this is why everyone moves to Arizona to golf, because you can golf year-round, and you may be if you golf at, like, 6 in the morning, you have a little bit of frost on the green, but you're never going to have snow on the green.
No, exactly. And then you got to think, too, about how hard the green is. It's frozen solid.
Oh,
it'd be like,
fast as
you're
fuck,
100
boy.
yards out. You're trying to land a pitching wedge on the middle of the green. It'd be like trying to stop it on concrete, man. You can't play.
It's just flying.
It's just
yeah.
frozen. It's so
slick,
hard
too, yeah.
Yeah, it would bounce. So it's definitely Arizona is number one for golf. I mean, why do you think we have so many damn golf courses out here?
No, absolutely. And finding a white golf ball in the snow, forget about it.
Yeah.
Even if they do like find a way to like clear it or whatever,
Yeah, no,
plow it,
yeah.
I don't see how that works out. So, golf in the Midwest and the East Coast probably coming to an end for the season until we hit springtime. But in Arizona, you can golf all through the winter, and it's the most expensive, but it is pretty enjoyable. It's real nice weather. So hopefully we get out there, Tallman. But another golf topic we want to talk about, we saw the PNC Championship this last weekend, and it's we found through some research it's like a father-son tournament. It's a pairing, a group thing, and so there were some big names out there. Tiger Woods was playing with his son Charlie Woods. John Daly was playing with his son John Daly II, not a junior. Got to be clear about that. And what'd you say? Not Justin Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas.
It was
playing
Thomas.
with his
Was
dad.
playing with his dad.
Yeah.
So that's all pretty cool. Woods and Daly, they both finished tied for fifth with a -19 on the scorecard. This was, I think, a 2-day tournament. It was just 2 days. But it was really cool seeing some of the clips that came out of that of Tiger playing with his son Charlie, who's 14. He's going to be 15 next year. Honestly, a lot. It's really, I don't know quite what the word is, but it's cool to see how similar Charlie is to Tiger and how much he's really picked up probably from watching his dad and learning from him and playing with him. Like, a lot of the mannerisms are the same, even down to their post round interviews. They're saying similar things. Like, it was a lot of fun out there. The competition was good. Tallman, like, what do you think about the future of golf when you're seeing guys like Charlie Woods and John Daly II?
Oh, I think it's got a very bright future. I mean, Tiger Woods is one of the most famous, popular, beloved athletes across every type of sport. I mean, the way that he took, the golf scene by storm and how dominant he was, it's just unmatched by any of the golf greats. I mean, he's the GOAT. He's the Tom Brady of golf. And
True.
I mean, you go out to the PNC Championship. I mean, everyone wants to go see Tiger Woods play. I don't blame him. I mean, even though he's, not as competitive, he's old, he's got so many injuries. He's only planning to play, one tournament a month. This, coming up right now in the PGA. But, I mean, to have his kid come in, and his kid he's going to be a stud, dude. And I have no doubt that if he comes in and he can compete and he can be good, he's going to be one of the big names up there in the next 10, 15 years. He's gonna be the man. I'd bet on it.
No, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, give him 2-3 more years. Like, I could see him being 17 years old and playing on the tour. And obviously, I don't know what his plans are as far as maybe finishing out his traditional education and maybe playing in college or something.
You know,
like
his
that.
plans are to play professionally.
He probably
It's Tiger Woods' kid.
honestly,
man, you know?
right? He can just go, and not to mention, even if he never plays golf in his life, that kid's set up for the rest of his life. He doesn't even have to
Absolutely
step
Yeah.
on a tee box or go to school.
Tiger
or
Woods is a
anything.
billionaire, man. He's a billionaire. As long as he doesn't have to give all of his money away to all of his girlfriends, he'll be okay.
Ooh.
I'm just kidding.
But Mike, what do you think about it? Does Charlie Woods excite you for the future of golf and maybe capturing your interest a little bit to tune in?
Oh, he's got me on the bandwagon. Let's go. Yeah, he's a freshman at Benjamin School in Palm Beach, Florida. He actually grew 4 inches over the past year, so this kid is just
He's
filling
getting
right
taller.
into the shoes of his father, man. But I know we saw some cool plays from him too. I mean, he was consistently driving over 300 yards. He had that 321-yard drive on the par 4 that went over the green.
Holy
Did you guys
shit.
see that?
No, holy cow.
no.
I mean, his club speed sits right between 115 and 120 miles per hour. And yeah, they had a nice showing in that first round. They shot at 8 under 64 at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club in Orlando. So I think you guys need to take back your comments about me not being a golf guy. Man, look at me bringing the goods. No, but yes, it brings its excitement, a fresh new face to the golf game. And, you know, there's just something about people wanting to see what children of high-profile athletes can bring on their own, right? There's always a little bit added interest, I would say, when it comes to those guys. Because, you know, selfishly, unfortunately, most of the times we're thinking, hey, can they live up to what their father was able to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
in
LeBron's
that
kid.
time frame.
Yeah.
So it definitely
Marvin
adds
Harrison
more
Jr.
intrigue.
Yeah.
His dad's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it adds a lot more intrigue at the end of the day, and it's, you know, you're going to be keeping more of a pulse on it when it comes to people like that. So excited. Let's roll.
He's just 14 years old and he's hitting it over 300 yards.
Yeah. No, and it's
I get lucky if I can hit it 230.
I'd say I get where, like, Mike, you're absolutely right as far as, like, Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer probably of all time in a lot of people's books, if not everybody's book. So when you're talking about the greats and their children, is different than, like, former players and their children. Because, like, right now we're sitting here watching the Cardinals game, and Christian McCaffrey is the son of Ed McCaffrey, who wasn't a slouch playing for Denver in his career. But Christian McCaffrey is becoming an all-time great right before our eyes and a future Hall of Famer if he keeps this pace, without a doubt. So it's not like there's no precedent for athletes' kids becoming good themselves or even potentially surpassing their parents, but it's a much higher bar when you're comparing a Tiger Woods to an Ed McCaffrey. Obviously, I know that, but at the end of the day, as I posed the question, it is exciting I think for me, for the future of golf, to see these young players and these legacy guys coming up, and just the game growing overall. I mean, Tallman, even just since you've gotten me into the game as we graduated high school like 10, 11 years ago, whatever it was now, to age myself there, that's when I really got into golf. I didn't play at all until I think was 17, 18 years old. You took me out there, and it's taken me about a decade to even be, I wouldn't even say I'm decent. Like, I'm not a par golfer. I am not a good golfer at all, but I can actually...
It's a really hard game.
But I can actually play the game now, and it took me about 10 years to play the game. But that's aside the point, not talking about myself, just seeing a lot more people being interested in golf, seeing a lot more people out on the course. The stigma around it, as it kind of being like a nerdy or a dorky sport, I think is completely out the window. You see so many pro athletes just play golf in their off season, from Steph Curry to J.R. Smith, going back to college and playing on their team. Like, golf is cool now. So for these guys to be coming up in a time when golf is becoming cool, and you talk about the LIV Golf adding some swagger to the game with their presentation of it, honestly, I think golf has a pretty bright future. And not to derail it too much and maybe transition into the next topic, but we did just have our top sports moments of 2023 podcast on a VSP roundtable we did this last Thursday. Really exciting. We landed ultimately on LeBron James becoming the all-time scoring leader in the NBA as the top sports moment of 2023. I think sheerly because that is just something that doesn't happen every year. It's a once in a lifetime generational thing. Like, I couldn't name another player who's active right now or coming up that I think would even come close to reaching that point in their career. LeBron James, what he's doing at 38 in, I think, the 16th or 17th, 18th year of his career is just absolutely unprecedented. But when we talk about games expanded, we also mentioned the F1 coming back to Las Vegas and how like F1 could start being popular. We talked about soccer. Is soccer becoming more popular in the United States? There's so much sports saturation in the marketplace now. It's just going to be very interesting to see. But as I say, we're transitioning to talk about 2023, and we talked about those top sports moments. I want to take the last bit of this podcast here, our last Heat Check podcast of the year, for us to kind of just reflect on the Valley sports and the top, or maybe some of our favorite moments of that 2023 season. I don't know. I'll toss it up to either one of you, whoever wants to hop on that first. And what was your guys' favorite Valley sports moment of 2023?
I'll jump right in on this one. I think my favorite one overall, because if you guys know me and you're listening, basketball is my sport. So Kevin Durant finally getting traded to the Phoenix Suns is my number one overall thing. We talked for months and months about what could happen, what pieces might go somewhere else. And then when it finally came to fruition, and unfortunately we lost the Twins, there was just a lot of great conversations that came about with it. So as far as an actual sports moment, that's probably my favorite one from this past year. But there's just been a lot of fun times we've had here at VSP, incorporating some new things. I mean, I can just speak of what we've done over the past couple of roundtables and introducing some lists. And like we said, the top sports moment bracket, chatting it up with our friends and having some good conversations about what people think about this scenario and that scenario. And we also had our recaps, tried to do it big this year with the Phoenix Suns, had some really, really strenuous times with some of our playoff runs as well, as we were doing some of those recaps every single day when I talk about the Diamondbacks as well. I guess I won't take it. We'll see where Tallman goes with his favorite moment, and if it doesn't get brought up, then I'll jump back in. But yeah, just had so much fun this year talking about the teams we love and just, man, chatting up with my guys, man. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And of course, you know what I'm going to say. The number one Valley sports moment or moments was the Diamondbacks. Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, you can compete for a World Series, and just how this team was just catapulted to being a World Series, or expected to be a World Series contender going forward. And just how this team had such a great start to the season, and then it was just had a roller coaster of a season, and then you get swept by the Astros going into the playoffs, and then you run through the wild card, you sweep the Dodgers, you embarrass the Dodgers so bad that they have to go out and sign Ohtani for $700 million just to compete with you guys, right?
All this just to stop Corbin Carroll.
That's right.
Crazy.
Small market, what? So, and then you go, and then that Phillies series was probably a top 20 playoff series in baseball history. It's got to be. I mean, you have a Diamondbacks team. You go back to Philadelphia, such a harsh environment, and you rip off two in a row in Philly to go to the World Series. It was incredible. Yeah, obviously, ultimately, we get to the World Series, and we didn't pull out. We lose to the Rangers, but man, just how it just makes you think of how a sports team can bring a community together, how Phoenix was just so fired up and excited for this team. It's just like when the Suns were running went to the finals. So it's incredible what that team was able to achieve. It's got to be that, because it was so unexpected. It is the Diamondbacks World Series run.
Tallman, it's hard to disagree with that. Mike, I think what you said definitely has merit. The signing of Kevin Durant was huge, especially how we tracked it, and we talked about it. We even have a TikTok up on our page about us saying Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant, because we were talking about him so much, and it was from the previous offseason leading up all the way to the trade deadline. For me, that was just, like you even said, it is a very bittersweet moment to get rid of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, two beloved players here. We talked earlier about their return, and they got a standing ovation. Those guys are loved here. But Kevin Durant is a huge name and a huge signing and a massive Valley sports moment. Honestly, though, I might lean towards Tallman as far as I will pick a third moment that I thought was one of my favorite Valley sports moments. But I would piggyback off Tallman. Like, I think the Phillies series was my favorite. Like, honestly, I dropped to the floor and like couldn't believe the fact that we were heading to the World Series. That was insane. And when we won a World Series game, that was also insane. I think we could have been more competitive with that Rangers team. I think it was just a few things that didn't go our way, maybe some nerves. And it's tough because they did lose Adolis Garcia, and I think that's when a lot of us, our eyes perked up and we're like, holy shit, we might have a chance. Like, they've gone through their 2 best starting pitchers. Adolis Garcia's injured. Like, what can we do? But man, Corey Seager and that group of guys just fucking buried us, man. And it was tough. It was tough and heartbreaking, but at the same time, it only took a couple days for me to get over that. Because the run was incredible, and the optimism for the future is something that has us talking about the Diamondbacks in December when I don't think we were doing that a year ago.
Not at all.
So if I had to pick a third moment as far as Arizona sports that I think was significant and maybe one of my favorites, would be kind of the new beginning for the Arizona Cardinals. They let go of Steve Keim, they cut ties with him, they fired Cliff Kingsbury, and they made some hirings where they got Jonathan Gannon, who you can say what you will about him. I've been back and forth. I'm still up and down. I'm still not 100% sure where I am with Jonathan Gannon, but say what you will, he was a defensive coordinator for a Super Bowl team and a really good Philadelphia Eagles team. And he came over and brought a young staff with him in Drew Petzing and the defensive coordinator Nick Rallis. Those guys, I think, have a lot of potential, and I think it says a lot about Michael Bidwell to give the reins to such a young group like that. Trusting in Monty Austinford as well. A lot of great moves were made in the draft as far as getting draft capital for future drafts. Understanding, I think, that we weren't going to contend this year. So while we're not tanking, which I'm very excited to see, actually, I fully expected a tank year, and I think a lot of us wanted that, maybe to try and get a number 1 spot, especially with the prospect of having number 1 and number 2 at the onset of the season, with the Texans being projected to finish so low. But the Texans are overachieving, and that's an understatement, even to say that they're overachieving. I know they lost today, and that's good for us. Or no, they won today, actually. I'm sorry, they pulled it out against the Titans, excuse me. So they're like 8-4 now. That's absolutely insane.
8-6.
8-6?
Yeah.
8-6. Yeah, we're later in the season than I thought. So, but they're on pace to be competing to, I think, win that division, if I'm not mistaken, which is just absolutely insane to me. But besides the fact, the moves the Cardinals made, I think, was a good highlight for 2023, just to show the changing of the guard, a new chapter. And while this season is kind of a throwaway one, I hope that they can make some more progress in 2024. Again, I don't expect them to even be playoff contenders next year, guys. Let's be completely honest. But to start to build on that as Kyler Murray enters the year where he's finally getting paid under his new contract, there's still a lot of questions to be asked, but that's got to be one of my top moments.
I was going to say, that was the other one. If nobody said it, I was going to make sure to say that. Hopefully Kingsbury. Hopefully Cliff stays in Thailand after his dreadful season that he had with USC. Steve Keim, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out once again. I mean, it finally seems like his media tour is done and gone with. So good riddance. Let the new era thrive and shine. Give them the keys to the car, and let's drive this in the right direction. 100% with you on that, Chris.
100%. Nowhere to go but up for the Arizona Cardinals, and very excited for all of the Valley sports teams going forward into 2024. It's going to be very interesting to see, and that's not even to mention what's going on in college football and ASU joining, what is it, the Big 12?
Big 10.
Big 10, excuse me. But there's gonna be more than 10 teams. It's interesting. It's gonna
be like 18.
Gonna be plenty to talk about with that. But guys, I think we're nearing the end of our very last Heat Check podcast of 2023. So I guess I'll ask Tallman first. Is there any closing thoughts you have on this year or the Valley in general?
Sorry. No, just we kind of pretty much hit on it. Excited for next year baseball. Just hoping the Suns can figure it out, man. I mean, once football season's over, that's all we're gonna have.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I shouldn't sell the Coyotes short when they're kind of putting together a pretty good start to the season right now. But that's hockey though. But yeah, no, it's excited to see what 2024 brings and some of the changes we're gonna see at Valley Sports Plug as well.
Without a doubt. And Mike, I think we have like a giveaway or something going on next year.
Pump the brakes, Chris. Pump the brakes. We're almost there, but we're going to keep the carrot dangling for the people. But I just got to give a shout out to some people, man. All of our good friends who have been contributors this year. I mean, I'm talking about Raymond, Nico, Ben, congrats on the new baby joining the world. Ian, Matt Tallman, freaking version 2 of T-Man,
T2,
the actual
baby.
OG, since he is older than you, Tallman. No drag on you there, but man, everybody who's hopped on the live streams joined us too. Ray Taylor over from Slam Ball. Man, it's been a fun year. I can't wait to go into 2024 with some new ideas, some fresh content, and just keep growing this thing out, because this is a niche market. We understand that. There are platforms that do cover the Valley, but I think that it doesn't hurt to have more voices, and we want to be a voice for the people who can still contribute and really flesh out how we bring this to people. And that's what we're all about here, man. I know one of the conversations we had is, what's our why? And our why is because we love this damn thing, and it's continuously changing, but we're going to keep bringing it to you. So we appreciate all y'all, and happy holidays, man. We'll see you guys next year.
And Mike, I couldn't have said it any better myself. We really appreciate everybody who's been tuning in, who's followed us and stuck along with us on this ride. It's been a lot of fun, and we just hope to keep growing this whatever you want to call it, this podcast, this product, this channel, and keep bringing you guys the best Arizona sports coverage that we can, whether it's bringing you the facts of the matter or just our opinions. And like I keep saying, guys, we want to tailor it to what you want to see. So let us know either in the comments. You can even, right now at this size, you can DM us on Instagram or Facebook. Like, this is your channel just as much as it is ours. So we really appreciate the Valley Sports Plug family, everybody who's joined us along this ride, whether you're on the stream or watching live, watching back on the replays. We really appreciate it. So one last plug for the year. Follow us at AZ_VSP on Instagram, TikTok, and X.com. And make sure you tune in and subscribe on YouTube, Arizona Valley Sports Plug on Facebook. And we're going to keep rolling this into 2024. But I got to thank Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman joining me on this run and this ride. We're at the end of, I think, our second year, even though it's about a year and a half that we've been doing this, but just a lot of fun and no end in sight, nowhere to go but up. So we'll keep bringing you all the best Arizona sports and Valley action, and maybe some pop culture sprinkled in there as well. So tune in, and we'll see you in 2024. For Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman, I am Chris Patrick. We'll see you next time. Peace.